because today I want to answer some questions, and I don't quite know how long that will take. But anyway, for right now, let's just kind of once again come into this extraordinary present, whatever the clock says, whatever's happening in the sky. Somehow we're present in the same time place, which is, so let's just make use of that. So wherever we are, however we are, whoever we are, wherever we are, here we are. And bringing yourself into that sense of timeless present. It's not a moment, it's the experience of direct reality, is always that which is presently arising. So we can notice there may be waves coming through from memory, waves of uncertainty about the future, and they're breaking over, like the waves washing over the sand. They're breaking over this territory of the present. These waves coming in. And let's just focus on, not on the waves, but on that sense of being present. And this is the territory that your body knows directly. It doesn't know the future. It doesn't know the past. It knows this. And come into this. This is where we are. And really using the body as a marker. So whether you're standing or sitting, just focusing on the spinal axis, and the base of your skull down into the pelvis. If you're standing, go down into the floor through the feet. And sometimes standing helps you to be a bit more tuned into your spine because it holds your balance. If you're sitting, really use your spinal focus to get your shoulders to open and relax. Drop your shoulders down your back. Let your chest come open. Bring your head back so it's resting on top of the bones of the neck. So the bones carry the weight. The muscles can relax. Make a deliberate sweep through this territory to switch off any muscles that you don't need, particularly in the face. And feels the breathing out could be supportive for that because it has a certain quality of relaxing. Breathing in tends to brighten. So when you breathe in, you can focus on the spine. See if that's lifting your spine to its full extension. And breathing out, relaxing the muscles completely that you don't need. You might also find even when you're fairly relaxed, there's a certain little nervous agitations that start happening, restlessness or fidgetiness, or even just using the out breath to see if you're rolling a wave of relaxing breath over the nervous system. Just stroking it over the nervous system. Doesn't matter what the thought is. Right now, it's the energy behind the thought that we can modify by breathing. As if you're breathing through the thought, breathing out through the thought. Breathing in, ventilating, freshening, breathing out, soothing, releasing. As you extend, you can then extend your attention as if you're widening your attention to include the back and the front of your body. In fact, you're as if you're sensing your entire skin boundary. So it's definitely a boundary, but it's quite a wide focus. Some places are more acute than others. The face is obviously very acute. Back, not so much. Let's see if you can get even a general sense of the overall qualities in the skin. Centered on the spine, expanding out to the skin. The degree to which that is possible, you have a focus, you have a sizable span, and then sustain that, and then open up the quality of awareness. And awareness is essentially receptivity. Your attention is a little more active, you place it, you create a whole embodied focus, and then receptive to what's going on in there. Warmth, movements. Certain degree of firmness, vitality. So we say within the body, not focusing on the spleen or the kidneys, but the somatic experience. And it's the body's intelligence, which is noticing things are firm or warm or soft or harsh. And we handling that, tuning into that with a sympathetic attitude. How is this? May this be well. You don't want to do anything with it, make it into anything. Just regard it with goodwill. And some of these qualities might have a certain emotional sense to them. Feel agitated or stirred, or we're not going to do anything about that apart from to extend goodwill, receptivity, become more stable in it. You can extend that awareness psychologically, people you know, near or far. May they be well. People who occupy your attention with their stories and ups and downs, may they be well. So you can always extend this quality, which is rooted in the body, rises up in emotion, and it can extend out to beings near and far. Notice the effect of just focusing on this quality of goodwill, really in a very embodied way. That's not just a passing thought, a deeply embodied sense of, if you can breathe that quality. So of course we can. It's the same nervous system that produces feelings, moods, energies, impulses, reflexes. So the quality of goodwill extended in any direction, to yourself, to others, has a healing effect on the body, calms the nerves, brightens the heart. Let's just withdraw some of that to notice how if our breathing has changed, how it is now, and your mind states, energy levels. Just recognizing just even this last 15 minutes, you can come out of a particular worldview and a particular set of preoccupation into something that's very nourishing. This magical quality of cultivated awareness. Okay, well, we'll pause there for now, because I'd like to give your questions, or some people's questions, adequate time to cover the session. So I've got these questions that came from the Dhamma Tracks comments page, which you're welcome to contribute to. I don't have a way of directly responding because I don't actually have that. I don't have access to it, to have input into it, but I do read it, and interesting in what people's concerns are, and naturally that's really important. No point in teaching just to hear your own voice. You want to try to reach out where people are at, and that's the theme of the Buddha, is dispensation. And one of the things one finds, the drawback of these remote internet connections is that you don't really get to really share time, spend time with each other. But so this is what we have, and I hope some of these questions are of universal value or stimulate your own thinking. So the first question here is a question the person asked: what is the difference between heedfulness, called appamada, and mindfulness, which is called sati? It seems the Buddha spoke of both as having primacy in practice. That is, he said, heedfulness is the path to the deathless, and sati is the direct path to the ending of sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair, for the purification of the heart, for the realization of nibbana. So they both get pretty strong marks, strong grades. Is heedfulness the fact of attentiveness, and sati the direct experience of it? Or are they just different words pointing to the same thing? Well, how useful is this? Well, I think heedfulness is pretty immediate. Sati takes a little bit more work, could say. So we all have a degree of sati, but it's the really basing sati, mindfulness, on right view. And so that in this case, although sati is the ability to bear something in mind, to stay with a topic, to stay with it. And you can have what's called right mindfulness, or samma sati, or the mindfulness that is fulfilling. Samma, fulfilling, it's furthering. And you can have wrong mindfulness, which is mindfulness that you're bearing the wrong things in mind. You're kind of getting obsessive. So it's staying on topic. And so the Buddha said, well, when your view is straight, when your virtue purified, then you establish sati in these ways, internally, externally, both, and you establish them in terms of body, feeling, heart, and stuff, active stuff that arises in the heart. These are the four establishments. So why do you need your view to be straight? Because you're just not focusing on tomorrow's dinner or, you know, the permutations of other people. You know, you say straight view is directly present moment, what's happening in my present experience. And the view is straight. That means I want to focus on things that are relevant to the purification of the mind, such as really understanding where one gets stuck, attached, stressed, confused, lazy, impulsive. Yeah, then you've got, that's the view, right view. To understand there are skillful factors, there are skillful states, and there are unskillful states. So you're bearing this quality in mind, this understanding in mind. You know, actually, what is helpful? Right. And then you start to place your mind on in a way that's supportive to, you know, clearing difficult phenomena. And your virtue is straight. It means you're not going to be manipulative, deceitful to yourself, but actually honest and straight. So that's, you know, so this is called the direct path. Now, what it does is it begins to, bearing this in mind, it acts as a filter. So he's feeling certain, you know, negative thoughts or aggressive feelings. So no, this is not something to tolerate, not something to focus on. It's something to actually say, no, let's stop that. Focus instead on qualities that are either patience or focus on your embodiment. You know, so you're not just going to get caught up with any old stuff. You know, so that's the first establishment. Focus on embodiment, because then you're not going to get thrown around. Embodiment's got a certain stability to it. You need that stability in order to really handle the evocative qualities of feeling and the powerful, very personally experienced qualities of heart. Whatever happens in the heart definitely feels very personal, very intimate, quite highlighted, quite charged. We need some stability to handle that. Otherwise, we're going to get, you know, overstimulated or obsessive even. This is the quality of sati. And so then we're saying she's sustaining a skillful focus that encourages not going into negative moods and feelings, but going into qualities that are calming and steadying, from where, when we have a suitable enough stability, we can then review our negative feelings and understand this is based upon, you know, negativity or attachment or fear or something. So you penetrate the Dhammas. This is the process, yeah? And this will bring around a quality of collectedness or samadhi, where things get very strong and steady. Heedfulness is much more like the immediate quality of alertness, whereby it's like you check what's happening. Wait a minute. You just wake up. So, as you know, the mind has a certain momentum to it. It rolls along, and life is rolling along, and things are happening, and we're asked to react, do this and do that. And we get very mobile, and you can find yourself swept along by, you know, conversations, by media, you know, by thoughts and worries. You're just going along. It's not taking it anywhere useful. Okay, so we're in a cyclone at the moment. But we're back again. Everything went, the power went, everything went. And I was talking about heedfulness. Heedfulness is a very immediate quality. Takes you out of the stream of expectation in the future. And it's always good to have that, because the mind does get into a flow. Yeah. So heedfulness kind of sets up a certain sense of alertness. And once you realize just how powerful the floods of mental proliferation are, then it acts as the kind of instigator to say, look, you know, you just see how when you stop, come out, look where you are, what you could be, how your mind is running. It does act as an encouragement to find a mooring post and be mindful. So heedfulness supports mindfulness, and in fact it stays with it, because even if your mindfulness goes astray, then your heedfulness can say, wait, you're not mindful, wait a minute, let's stop, re-establish it. So it's an ongoing factor. Well, okay, I'm going to move on while we still have some power. And this one, I often hear the words, your dukkha is not personal. My experience tells me there is so much behind that feeling, that this that I'm experiencing is different, worse, beyond healing, or I'm out on my own. To say it is not personal, to me, is not looking or understanding or feeling or healing the truth of our situation in the moment. I wonder what you have to say. Well, yeah. Yeah, well, your dukkha, that expression, your dukkha is not personal. Yeah, it's a nice, brief slogan that can cause you to investigate or remember, but it doesn't actually do much apart from give you a hint. And because the dukkha comes in various forms, there's dukkha called dukkha dukkha, which is the dukkha of pain. Then there's viparinama dukkha, which means the fact that things change, you can't hold on to anything. And there's the sankata dukkha, which is the dukkha that gets created through not being able to handle these other forms. And the dukkha that the Buddha said he could do something about is this last kind, which is our emotional or capacity to handle or remain steady or, you know, rise above these assaults on our senses of disappointment, things not going right, pain, and then of course psychological pain, insults, worries, and so forth. And he's saying, well, you know, and with this, the dukkha is not personal. It's a kind of, it's a reminder, because if it wasn't personal, it wouldn't be dukkha. It just be, oh, that's that. It's the very personal quality of it that gives it its sting. This is happening to me, you know, and this is my daughter doing this, or my child who's getting hurt, or, you know, you look in the world, you say, oh my goodness, all those people buried under rubble in Turkey. To say, don't take it personally, sounds a bit callous. How can you not take it personally? You think, well, okay, let's get back to that, you know. And in fact, these things do remind you, perhaps, that these tragedies and chaos and hurt and pain are they're not just you, they're universal. So when the Buddha, you know, this woman who, Kisa Gotami, a woman her child had died, and he said, well, she took the baby, she was so distraught, and she saw this holy man saying, can can you help me? Can you bring my child back to life? And he said, well, maybe I can help you. If you can go and get a mustard seed, I can do something. She went, oh, great, a mustard seed. Yeah, go down to the village, but you can only get it from a house where nobody's died. Of course, she goes to the house. Happy to give you a mustard seed, but my uncle died last week, and so forth. Goes to the whole village, recognizes, you know, my child, yeah, but everybody gets this. It's not personal, it's universal. That's one way of looking at it. So that the mind comes out of that very contracted, you know, tension of trying to hold to something. Look, everybody gets this. It's not just you. And maybe the quality of compassion arises to help to heal this painful feeling. You know, so you can't just say not personal, just a kind of slogan. And then you think, oh, right, it's not personal. But then you've arrived there from a place of compassion. It's how you get there that counts. Now, we can also recognize that, you know, all the many experiences we can have, frustration, breakdowns, people being unpleasant, whatever, that it all comes to that hurt me, you know. That really hurt me. It hurt me. So then the kind of meditative, insightful process is, okay, it hurt me. Where's the me that it hurt? Is it it's obviously your hair? No. Where's the me that it hurt? Well, it went right into my heart. Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it did. It went right into your heart. That heart, did you create it? No, I didn't create it. It's there. Can you say to the heart, you know, don't experience pain? No, I can't. So you don't own it. You can't control it. You can't even protect it. What makes it? Who's living? Who does it belong to? It doesn't belong to anybody. But then the me sense arises in that place. And the me sense, if you go to that sense, is actually not a person at all. It's a sense of extreme volatile. You know, it jumps and they jump. Now that's not a person. That's called a sankhara, a volitional rising up of energy and emotion. Now, what if we acknowledge that I feel hurt, pain? It's actually my heart feels hurt and in pain. It burns, it rushes, it struggles, it flounders. Then perhaps again, my attention would gather around that with a sense of, okay, that's really difficult. Let's just see if we can put some steadying goodwill onto it, respond to it, so that now what's happening there is the me sense has gone to the one who's doing the skillful action. And so I am responding to this heart thing. So it's sort of shifting the center from the painful piece. Not it's not there, but your center of attention goes to the healer of the pain. And you could say they're both me. You could say that. You could say the pain is me and the healing quality is also me. You've got two me's. Well, okay, two me's. You could have another few more. You know, me is always available as a reference point to anything that's intimate. But then as you get like that, you become, as you do that practice of sympathetic awareness and steadying and whatever you need, whatever is suitable to deal with that, much more attention, much more energy, much more focus goes on the healing. And then gradually the sense of me begins to soften on the heart, on the painful piece, and something strengthening occurs in the healing piece, the healing aspects, the compassionate aspects. I know they're not me either, really. They're just, that's another mental faculty. But the intensity of the experience has been abated by that. And therefore, as it abates, it becomes less, I'm not squirming on the end of it. And so that the me drops off the hook. I think, well, then do I even need to use that word anymore? There was suffering. There was a response to it. There was a release, and now it's released. Do I need to actually add this me thing to it? There's a process here. So at a certain point, the me word becomes kind of irrelevant and even obstructive, because if the identification keeps occurring, it doesn't relieve the pain. It intensifies it. It intensifies it. A good friend of mine, he had it when he had a little baby girl, holding her one day. She's just a little tiny tot, and she stopped breathing. She stopped breathing, and he's doing things. She's dead. He's holding her, and she dies in his hands. And it's just kind of, you don't get much more intimate than that. A shock, trying to resuscitate, she's dead. Didn't know why. Sometimes that happens. And what's going on? Pain, horror. What's going wrong? What happened? Why am I me? Why is this happening to me? And this was in this state for quite a while. It's intensified. And then he thought, well, why not me? This happens. I didn't decide to make it. It happens. But so why is the pain here more important than the pain anywhere else? And when it's so important here, because then there's two things. One, because it does feel important here, this means now get on with it, deal with it. Yeah. And it's so important to deal with it. And if you go to identifying with it in a way you don't deal with it, you sort of, I'm like this, I'm particularly uncomfortable feeling I'm like this, I'm stuck, I'm hopeless, I never get rid of this, I can't handle it. This just creates more and more holding on in that experience. So it's not easy to say, don't take it personally. It's certainly not, it's so easy to say it, but to do it, it's not easy. But the process is directly handling experience as it is. And the more direct you get to it, you recognize that there's something you don't need to do in that gets in the way, which is me, mine, why me, how can I, why am I like this? That gets in the way. Then you abandon that, the sense of me sort of changes, sometimes evaporates, and you realize something in you has become stronger, wiser, brighter, more resilient, and that's, and then you don't need to call that anything really. So the healing process is very significant, and that's where the healing comes first, the process of healing becomes first, and then the realization that this is just a sentiency experiencing stress and suffering. The best way to deal with it is to stop this identification with it. Still easier said than done. I have another question. Person has chronic illness. This is obviously one of the major examples of dukkha. Chronic illness, which affects many parts of my body and is very challenging. Comes on suddenly, so I live in constant fear and worry of what if I get sick? I also monitor my sensations all the time to try and prevent the illness, even though doctors tell me I can't do anything to prevent it. Affects my breathing. very difficult to use my breathing to calm myself. How can I get out of this constant cycle of fear and worry and obsessively monitoring my sensations? Can I use something other than the breath? Yes, you can. Yeah. Because the thing with the breathing is, and something to cultivate, whenever you get into any kind of positive state, good space, there's the time to focus on your breathing, because the breathing will amplify that state and take it into your nervous system. Breathing's a messenger. If you're panicking, you don't want to focus on your breathing when you're panicking, because it tends to you hyperventilate. So if you get an extremely powerful negative reflex occurring, such as panic, you don't focus on your breathing, because your breathing will actually carry that panic. Instead, you focus on anywhere you can find the antidote to that. So we might say, okay, you might find just the anchoring in the body, the physicality of the body, or walking along the movement of the body as it walks. Yeah. Or we might find chanting, even movement of the heart as it chants, helps to provide some sort of medium where the stressing and the tension can find an outlet. You know, so chanting, for example, it gives a tremendous outlet for one's emotional body, emotional patterns. You can just chant, open your chest and chant, and send blessings, or send any aspiration. And that helps as a focus to give yourself a positive energy that's not trapped. When you feel trapped in a pain body, then everything starts to get desperate. So you want to find somewhere where you've got a place of coming out into something more beautiful. Acts of generosity, acts of sharing to others also can give you a positive energy to move out on. Now, also, when you say, if I get sick, it's not if, it's when, and that's the same for all of us. I can say this glibly because I'm not sick, but I sure know I will be, and there's no getting away from that. So it's not like worrying if I get sick, it's a recognition I will get sick. And what does that mean? How do I prepare myself to deal with loss of strength, uncomfortable feeling, loss of sense faculties? Well, that's why we practice. Find a refuge, and certainly you physically, psychologically, you taking refuge in bringing your mind into the quality of awareness, and your heart into the quality of loving kindness. These are tried and tested remedies to counterbalance the effects of illness. Debilitating illness, you can't do very much. Don't try to do very much. Don't try to get well, because that puts pressure on it. Just be aware of the uncomfortable dukkha, and be the awareness of that, which is not stressing, not complaining, not resisting. And you find the awareness itself can be developed to become a kind of refuge in its own right. Somebody asked for a better understanding of papancha, the word papancha. Papancha is translated as proliferation. So it literally means a thorough five. So it's making something that was singular into much. And it's the habit of the mind creating a whole web of possibilities and alternatives and obsessions. So this makes, then you get very lost and tangled up in it because it's emotionally driven. So an example was a few years back when you lived in a derelict house, people just trying to find some place where they could lie down without the rain coming onto them. So you get 2 or 3 people in a room. When we lived in this early days in Chitta's monastery, 3 or 4 people in a room to find somewhere where the rain wasn't pattering on your head. And so we lived like that. And in the morning, we gather for their morning breakfast down in the one room in the house, which had a solid floor. And so we're sitting there and somebody notices Anagarika Bruce wasn't there. And where's he gone? Nobody knew. And somebody said, you know, last night he was looking a bit kind of depressed and upset. And maybe, where's he gone? Perhaps he ran away. Perhaps he's, gone somewhere. And they said, yeah, we better look out because he could have fallen in the lake. He might be struggling out somewhere in a deranged state, and people are getting really worried. Door opens, then Bruce walks in. He just found what had happened. He's just found another section of the house he could get some sleep in, and he'd overslept. But we created this huge kind of scenario, and then all the possibilities, what we're going to do about it, and it just out of the recognition of something not being there, when all we really knew was now we cannot see Bruce. That's what we know. And then the mind goes, my goodness, what's happening? And then you did proliferation. And this is when you get something called sanya, which is a meaning. So you interpret something means something. Oh, that's that. Oh, she's upset. You see somebody's face. Oh, she's upset. Oh, I must have said something wrong. Oh my goodness, what have I done wrong? I bet I did this, do that. You say, I'm really sorry, Sally. I'm upset. You said, what? No, I just was just thinking about something. You created this whole story, and you realize that you saw something and you got a meaning from it, and that meaning actually referred to your dominant tendency, your guilt tendency, or a worried tendency, or a threat tendency. Look, the way he looked at me, he's threatening me. All you know is somebody looked at you. Maybe not. You get this proliferation. And essentially, it's sanya. And the qualities that go into it, first of all, it's the underlying quality called tanha, which is we're craving for security. We're craving to know where things are. We're craving to feel certain about the future. We want to know what will happen. We want to know where that's gone. We want to know, we want to have certainty. We want to have comfort. We want to feel settled. We seek a settled, balanced state, and something's not doing it, or we read something that makes us feel unsettled. And this tanha, craving, then we get this sense of the papancha starts moving. This proliferation starts going. And it creates an I am. I am in this state, and then this is what I am. I'm a worried person, I'm a negative person, or a guilty person, or a flawed person. We can spin out huge scenarios and stories about our life based upon one gesture. Somebody doesn't send you a Christmas card, you think, oh, they've written me off. I'm hopeless. Nobody likes me. They just forgot. So this is very potent stuff. And why we try to get a hold of it is because you can send your trajectory, your intentions, your impulses, and your self-view. It can create that and send it off in a strong direction. And then you end up generating more suffering out of that. So it's very much caught up with the suffering and stress. So the Buddha is one who's called the Nipapancha. The Buddha does not proliferate. He sees what can be seen and he sees it. That's the scene. Yeah. He doesn't proliferate around it. He doesn't proliferate a person. either internally or externally, sees something and he doesn't proliferate, oh, that's her. He says, there's something I'm seeing. It reminds me of this. Maybe so. No, it's actually always on the mark. And that way we're very alert and attentive, and we're not projecting our worries, fears, guilt, craving onto other people. We're freeing our mind from this unnecessary tangle and burden. But at the same time, you have to stay alert because, maybe so, maybe so. But that absence of proliferation means the mind is quite clean and attentive and alert. It's not clogged with its fears and worries. Okay, well, I think the last one will take you too much of your time. The natural desire to connect with other human beings. Sometimes I feel unsure of how to go about connecting with others. I want to come from a generous place, but sometimes I feel needy. How can I go about getting my social needs met without being an imposition on others or demanding affection? Well, the need for social connecting with others, since we are in a world of other people, and a lot of our actions are going to be interactions with other people, we need to feel there's a certain clarity of relationship where you know what's going on, and you can express yourself, and obviously, if your goodwill can be received, then it's very pleasant. Unfortunately, that doesn't always work because any relationship requires two people. And if the other person is not available, not accessible, then you can't get the connection. So it requires two people to get that sense of connection in that way. And then if you don't get the connection, you think, well, either something wrong with me or something or the other, or I'm not getting through, I feel frustrated. Then what's happening is you are probably not consciously, but you're actually making a demand. I want you to be available for me. And that isn't going to help matters. Now, so really with this loving kindness, you have the four qualities. There's goodwill, there's compassion, there's gladness and appreciation. It's also equanimity. And they're all aspects of this feature of the extending the heart. So we have that quality of goodwill. And then if it's not met, responded to, then we move towards equanimity. Okay, well, keep it there. I'm doing my bit, and I feel fluent. I don't feel barren. I feel there's heart energy coming out. But at the same time, I'm not asking you to be a certain way, and even to receive it. So, and this is, if you like, the equanimity is the one you can't really lose with that. Because then if things work, that's fine. If they don't work, that's fine. But your heart is not closed, and you haven't got flustered and agitated. And naturally, of course, these qualities also have to be cultivated internally towards oneself. So, this again soothes the heart. You're feeling well. You bring up reflections, gladness, appreciation to yourself, and the efforts you make, and the goodness, and you have mudita, you enjoy your own goodness. So this is another important brahmavihara, to be able to just enjoy your own goodness. All of us can recognize where we go wrong, don't feel very good at all. But the whole point of cultivation is to cultivate simple acts of goodness and to appreciate the fact that you like to do it. It's a natural human need to be generous and giving and loving, and you can do that, and you wish to do it. And once you touch into that, you feel, this I can do. Whether anybody else notices or not isn't something I can make happen, but I can still do this. Whether the person responds or not isn't something I can demand, but I can still keep doing this. I'm not losing touch with that quality. This is where equanimity, gladness, appreciation, compassion, these all work together to mean the heart is quite rich and not blocked by, the negative stuff that's happening for other people. But you have compassion for it. If only my mother or father had been able to appreciate my teaching, that would have made me happy, but they weren't. So, that's like that. It doesn't mean I can't send them love. It means perhaps they unfortunately can't receive the fullness of it. But that's the way it goes when you send it out to wherever you can. So I will stop for this evening, and we've made it through. Cyclone Gabrielle has not stopped the Dhamma wheel from turning. Thank you very much for your attention.
Andamaya Dhammagataya Sadhukaram Dhammase Sadhu 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 Anumodam. Thank you so much, Ajahn. Could we just take a moment to pay respects to you with 3 bows? We wish you well. We wish you safety, Ajahn, and thank you so much for hosting, for being here.
Yeah. Thank you, George. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good, whatever it is.